Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing is an authorized brother dealer and repairs all brands of machines. Mid-South Sewing, known for their many fabrics, classes, and individual instructions. Classes on sewing and embroidery machines, software, sergers, and quilting. Mid-South Sewing, Knoxville and Murfreesboro.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttonewknox.com. And by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. knoxvilleflowerpot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. On this edition of Tennessee Life, meet a few of Tennessee's female farmers. They may be a small group, but they are dedicated. One woman traded a chef's life in New York for a small farm in Greenville.
My plan was to go to the farm, to pick fresh vegetables, get to experiment with an endless amount of everything that was coming in season, learn about growing food, and then go back to the city and go back to working in restaurants.
At Care of the Earth Farm in Corryton, the mission is to grow food and community, one dinner table at a time.
A lot of the women that I've known that have gone into farming have done it because they're passionate about something related to farming. And I think that's pushing the trend.
In Tennessee, farms are usually passed down from one generation to the next. Growing up on a high school hog farm, Shannon Meadows is now taking her turn at running the family business.
I think being a woman farmer in East Tennessee is really exciting, and this time in my generation in particular, there's a growing number of us, and I see a lot of faces like mine in the farmers market when I go, and I'm just really encouraged.
Those stories next on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Vicki Lawson. In Tennessee, you'll find more than 68,000 farms, but fewer than 10% are run by women. In this edition of Tennessee Life, we seek out those female farmers. We start in Greenville, where one woman traded a fast-paced New York City life to run River House Farm.
I just wanted to sit on a porch and drink coffee in the morning. And I just wanted it to be quiet. I just wanted space. I lived in an apartment in a loft with 2 other people in a bedroom that didn't have any windows that just fit a bed in it. And I could hardly afford that. So you get a lot more when you move out to the country. And then I just like being able to harvest everything I've been working on and walk around and just pick what you want to eat for dinner and bring it in and cook it and just eat really fresh food all the time. I'm Melissa Rebholz, and we're at River House Farm outside of Greenville, Tennessee. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and I was interested in fashion when I was in high school, and that's how I ended up moving down to New York City, and I actually went to college at the Fashion Institute of Technology, so very different from farming and food. Through working in fashion and realizing that that wasn't what I was going to do, but being in New York City, which is an amazing food city, I started shopping at farmers markets in my neighborhood, and I just got really into the quality of buying stuff that was just picked and that was locally produced. And I started volunteering at the farmers market, doing cooking demos, having no culinary background. And that's how I kind of got interested in going to culinary school, because I enjoyed cooking for people in public and teaching people how to use fresh ingredients. So I went to a culinary school that specialized in using whole and natural foods called the Natural Gourmet Institute. So we focused on using local produce, and they would buy produce from the farmers market in Union Square for their program. And that's how I got involved in cooking with local foods and just kind of being an activist and promoting it for the past, I guess, 12 years now. My plan was to go to the farm, to pick fresh vegetables, get to experiment with an endless amount of everything that was coming in season, learn about growing food, and then go back to the city and go back to working in restaurants. But I just really liked working outside better, and I just stayed on the farm. I came to Tennessee the first time when I was driving cross country on one of my moves out to California. And I just never had been here before, so I stopped everywhere from east to west, and I just really fell in love with it here. I was in California for 3 years after I took that trip, and I would tell people that I was going to move to Tennessee because I liked all the rivers, and it was so green and lush, and I loved the rolling hills and all the farmland. I wanted to come as a farmer, someplace where I could depend on rainfall and where, there was good, healthy soil. And I just saw Tennessee as like really beautiful farmland that was really affordable to live and to make a business for yourself here. And I felt that people were still kind of connected more to the roots of where their food came from and to growing things for themselves and just seeing big backyard gardens and people doing their own canning and stuff still. And I just liked that that was really alive here and that people weren't just going to the grocery store and buying everything. On this property, it's 60 acres. Most of that is hilly, wooded area, but we're growing vegetables on approximately 1.5 acres. We grow everything: flowers, herbs, seasonal fruits like watermelons. Right now I'm harvesting a lot of pawpaws because there's a wild pawpaw grove here. You harvest them by picking them up off the ground because they fall off the trees. It's a native fruit and it's wild. It's exactly where it should be on the river down here. That's where it's traditionally grown, in wooded areas on riverbanks. And it's sort of like a custard, like a tropical fruit that it tastes like a mango mashed with a banana. So this week I've been saving up the pawpaws for the dinner on Sunday. You can scoop out the custard and freeze them very easily, and it makes a really beautiful creamy pawpaw ice cream. I do everything organically. We don't use any inorganic methods to grow here, and what we try to do is just mimic the way that things grow in nature. In the springtime, it starts out with lots of greens: kale, lettuces, radishes, cabbages. And then we run the gamut of all the summer vegetables: summer squashes, fruits like melons, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. I would say our 3 biggest summer crops are eggplants, peppers, and tomatoes. And then we also grow a lot of garlic over the winter that we harvest in June. And then in the fall, we're transitioning into broccoli, back to cabbages, back to a lot of the same stuff that we grew in the spring, like the cooler weather crops. We have shallots in the ground, pumpkins, and then we'll try going as long as we can until everything gets a hard frost and dies, and then we'll just go in and read for the winter. I'm doing a lot more than farming here because farming isn't that lucrative of a career. I don't know if you don't get into farming to make a lot of money. You'll have a nice lifestyle and you'll have plenty of food for your house, and we do have good markets around here. But I diversified and added other businesses into farming that I call my side hustles. So I have the little cabin that I rent for Airbnb, and then another aspect is that I do the monthly farm-to-table dinners that are followed by a movie. So that's more of a just creative outlet to be able to cook and share my passion for cooking with people, and less of a business. I think anybody that farms, not just moving to the country or to Tennessee specifically, gives up a lot of social activities, gives up a lot of relationships. I always joke with people that it's really hard to be a good farmer and a good friend. I've gained a quality of life in that I get to spend all day outside. Well, I tell people all the time that I know a lot of people that live in the city that think like, oh, I want to go grow vegetables, and that's great. And there's a lot of really great books about organic gardening and farming, and there's a lot of internships you can do that will teach you how to grow vegetables. But you also need to be a plumber, and you need to be a little bit of an electrician, because you're going to have to do repairs on a greenhouse. You're going to have to set up irrigation. There's a lot more involved than just putting seeds in the ground. I think a new generation of farmers is forming naturally as a response to the influx of technology and how far we've gotten away from nature. I mean, I think it's a natural reaction that people want to push back against that now. So I see a lot of younger people wanting to grow food because for so long, people have now been accustomed to going to the grocery store and just picking whatever is off of a shelf and not knowing where it came from, and people are eating a lot of processed foods. And I think the younger generation of people, a younger generation than me that's even coming up, is questioning that. They're questioning those ingredients in those food, and they're questioning shipping food from, you know, all over the world into our grocery stores. And I think people just want to know what it feels like to grow something for themselves. You give up nightlife and restaurants and community to a certain extent, but for me personally, what you gain in space and freedom of movement, it pretty much makes up for that.
Later on Tennessee Life, this Anderson County farm prides itself on its orchards with fruit picked only when it's perfect. But next, a farm that's connecting with local families through fresh food.
One of the ways to give people the best of any farm is through community-supported agriculture. That's CSA for short. People pay a farmer, and in return, they get a weekly basket of fresh fruits and vegetables. We met Megan Allen at Care of the Earth Farm, where the mission is to make sure everyone has access to fresh food.
A lot of people come to us saying, I know I need to change something, and I don't know enough yet to really know what all I'm doing, but I know I need to change something. I want to change my diet, and I want to change my family's diet, and like that's where we're starting. And so they come to us kind of saying like, help me do this. Usually I go through the box with the person, they tell me what they made last week with their food, they tell me what they're going to make this week, they ask me whatever questions they want. It's just more meaningful to us to do it that way. I'm Megan Allen, and we're at Care of the Earth Community Farm. We have about 30 acres in Corryton, Tennessee, right by House Mountain. The more people see a different face in farming, it's not, you know, like every time my son has a book that's about farmers, and it says the farmer and the farmer's wife. And every time I read it, I change what it says because it drives me crazy. Because more and more it's the farmer and the farmer, or, you know, just the woman is the farmer, or it's a single woman that's a farmer, and it's not just the woman who's there happens to be the farmer's wife. So I think the more people see that and know that, the more that will change too. We have environmental issues, we have economic issues, we have human rights issues, we have nutrition issues that are all related to our food system. And so the more I learned and the more I farmed, the more I just kept feeling like this is what I want to be doing to address those things. So many people don't eat as a family anymore. Knoxville has one of the highest restaurant to per capita ratios in the country, which is insane to me. Most people eat out, and they do it not just like once a week, they do it every night. And a lot of people are eating out at like essentially fast food restaurants. So I think changing that and saying, hey, like here's a box of vegetables, why don't you and your family cook it together and eat it together? And I think that's something that a lot of our members who have stayed with us have really appreciated. Like their kids have grown up knowing what every single vegetable is and not being afraid to eat it. And I just decided I'd rather be on the dining room table side, you know, working with families and getting to know them and helping them change their diets, and also helping them understand why we farm the way we farm and why we choose to grow what we grow. So I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, so not a rural upbringing. I liked to garden as a child, but definitely didn't plan on becoming a farmer of any kind. I found farming when I was in college. I went to college at Vassar College, which is a small liberal arts college in Poughkeepsie, New York. I was a sociology and economics major, so my focus was on anti-hunger policy. And I worked at, my very first internship was at a local needs food bank. And a few weeks in, a farmer came in with produce that he was donating. And I said, oh, like, you know, we never see fresh produce in here. Like, you know, where does this come from? What do you do? And we just struck up a conversation. And he said to me, oh, we're trying to start a farmer's market in the city of Poughkeepsie. Would you help? And I was like, great. You know, I was 18 years old. I was sure. So I started doing that, and then eventually started working on his farm, and one thing led to another. My husband was like, why don't we try and do this for ourselves? I kind of thought it was crazy, because when you think about that in New York State, you're talking about paying $2 or $3 million for farmland, which we obviously didn't have. So I thought, well, I don't know if that's plausible. And he just kept saying, I really think this is the direction we should go. And I had dreamed about that, but I didn't think it was a reality. So then he said, well, what about moving to Tennessee? He had never been here, but it was home to me. So CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and different people interpret that different ways. The typical sort of approach is you sign a contract of some sort and you make some sort of upfront payment, and they say it takes the risk off the farmer. Really what it does is take the marketing off the farmer. You don't have to spend all summer going to a farmer's market or figuring out where you're going to market your food. It's already sold. And then the farmer's responsibility is to grow it and deliver it or offer it, as they just pick up at the farm, every week or every other week. We harvest 42 weeks out of the year for CSA members. For ourselves, we actually harvest something all year long. We never are not harvesting. And actually, the only reason we don't extend our winter season for our CSA members is we feel like we need a break. So we have 120 CSA members, and then we do about 40 to 45 of them do our winter CSA program. So about 500 people probably, counting children. We grow 62 different fruits and vegetables. I harvested peppers and eggplant and various greens, and then we also harvested turnips and bok choy and okra, cherry tomatoes, leeks. Then we have storage crops already like sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, winter squash, garlic. We have different herbs. I think a big part of organics is, like sort of the care of the earth. That's what we do. We take care of the earth. We renew our soil. We take care of our soil so that it will then take care of the plants and give the nutrients that are in our soil to the people that eat those foods. And I've sort of thought about renaming what we do as to CSASC, Community Supported Agriculture that Supports Community. Because I think when you think about CSA that way, just CSA, a cash payment for a box, it seems sort of one-directional to me. Like this person supposedly is paying all this money to take the risk off the farmer, and the farmer just delivers a box. And there's so much more to what we do than that, than just sort of a basic economic relationship. So I feel like what we're trying to do is to create, whether it be a virtual community or a disparate community, but we deliver food, but we also are delivering the education that goes behind it. And then the people are supporting us, but they don't just support us economically. We become friends and family. We eat dinner with CSA members. We go to their kids' sporting events, baby showers, hospitals. We've become a big family. Give them their food, and they're so appreciative and so joyful about what we do that I'm like, of course I have to keep doing this. It's a need we're filling, and there's so few people that are willing to do it. And I want to do it, and I enjoy it, and I love farming.
In the 70s, one farm in Anderson County was raising one thing: hogs. Today, Mountain Meadows sells many varieties of fruits and vegetables through farmers markets, CSAs, and direct to restaurants. And everything is picked only when it's absolutely ready.
Oh, there's little harlequin bugs in there that are bright orange. I eat everything that we grow. I only grow things that I love to eat. So I found out years ago that I wanted to experiment with some different things to grow, but I've only kept the things that I really like. The Mountain Meadows farm is really kind of in the northeast corner of Anderson County. We're near the small towns of Norris and Andersonville. The farm is 118 acres in total. We farm on about 25 of those acres. You can see there's some vegetable fields down this way. Just below us there's blueberries. We have several hundred blueberry plants both here and up on the hill. We have 4 varieties of blackberries below that. And then you can see a long swath of trees. Those are all apple trees on both sides of the road. And the apple trees, there's I think right over 400 apple trees in all different varieties that span over the fall season. My parents first bought the farm in 1970. They started with a few dairy cattle and they were growing quail at that time. By the time I was a small child, they had sold those and they had started a commercial hog farm. They did that until I had graduated high school and was in college, and they decided to retire and travel the world. And I think within a few years of doing that, they figured they were a little bored, they needed something else to do. So the local community of Norris had invited them to start a farmer's market there. And they started selling things they had on their existing orchards and gardens in the farmer's market. And before they knew it, within I'd say 3 to 5 years, they had added several farmers markets. It had become a business, and they invited my brother and I to come home to the farm and said, we think this is a new business that you guys could do potentially for income. So that's when we joined the farm in 2009, and we changed the name at that time to Mountain Meadows Farm. We added a little alliteration and interest and started to going to a lot more farmers markets and selling to restaurants, and we also started a CSA at that time. Right now we've done a fruit CSA. It's the first fruit CSA in this area. So we have, I think it's 12 different kinds of fruit, and it spans from strawberries all the way through the apple season. So we have strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, 4 kinds of grapes. We have 3 kinds of melons. We have peaches, plums, nectarines, apples, pears, Asian pears. And the apples is what we're into right now. I think we have 8 different varieties of apples that we've picked and harvested right now that we're selling at the farmers markets.
The stuff you get out of the farmers market, let's face it, is most of the time is going to be a good bit better than what you can get out of the grocery stores. I think the grocery stores do a very good job in this country, but they can't do the job that we do because we're picking it today and we sell it this afternoon and we're selling it in the morning. And we're selling a product for taste. We're not selling a product for shipping that's going to ship from California to Knoxville. Everything about us is taste.
I just really love growing vegetables. I think people are always surprised that my favorite thing to grow for all the fruits and vegetables is lettuce. I love lettuce. I love peaches too. Everybody loves peaches.
Picking peaches is like looking for Easter eggs. It really is. I mean, every week you got another one coming in, you know, and you're just real anxious to go see what that one's like, you know. And of course, we picking them as fast as we can, but we always gonna stop. We get one that's got a little spot on it, you know, and it's good and ripe, we're gonna stop and eat it. So that's delicious too. And then you get to know what that variety is gonna taste like, you know, ahead of everybody else. And it's really a lot of fun, you know. We've got 24 varieties of peaches, and we got 4 different varieties of nectarines. And people have built up all kinds of stereotypical ideas about what peaches and nectarines should be. First of all, they don't like nectarines. They know they don't like nectarines. They taste ours, and then they want to fight over getting them. Why don't you have them now? We want some more. And the same way with white peaches. People would not, when we started in the business, would not eat a white peach. And now they ask for them every single time they want white peaches.
We've had the oldest part of our peach orchard here for 25 years, I would say. And those are the trees my parents initially had planted and were harvesting in full production when I came back to the farm. But then we realized that if we were going to support more people and mouths on the farm, we had to plant more. So to get more trees, we've planted about 500 peach, plum, and nectarine trees, and also about 500 pear and apple trees. And those guys take 5 to 6 years to grow before you're going to get a good full harvest on them. So it's some patience and a lot of care you have to do for those every year to get a harvest those years later. I think being a woman farmer in East Tennessee is really exciting, and this time in my generation in particular, there's a growing number of us, and I see a lot of faces like mine in the farmers market when I go, and I'm just really encouraged by that, the growing numbers of us and the camaraderie we have and the things we share together. And so I'm glad to see the change.
They approach it in a different way than men do, and I think they understand it from a woman's position, so I think that's really good.
Oh, it done turned red.
Really?
Everything, every one peach orchard.
I guess what keeps me coming back to farming and what makes me really passionate about it are the customers. People are excited about local food and finding things that they've not eaten before, and they want to try new things, along with just supporting local agriculture in their area. And that movement has really supported us on the farm and helped us be confident to expand and have the income we need to keep doing what we do as a family farm.
We hope you've enjoyed learning from these female farmers, and when it's harvest time, we hope you'll get some of your produce from a Tennessee farm near you. I'm Vicki Lawson. See you next time.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing is an authorized brother dealer and repairs all brands of machines. Mid-South Sewing, known for their many fabrics, classes, and individual instructions. Classes on sewing and embroidery machines, software, sergers, and quilting. Mid-South Sewing, Knoxville and Murfreesboro.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttoknox.com. And by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. knoxvilleflowerpot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. A DVD of this program is available by visiting easttennesseepbs.org.